The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of Green Acres and our guests. These general gardening tips and suggestions may work for you, as well as those from alternative sources. When using any garden products or tools, read and follow all label directions. And learn how to make your yard summer strong at bewatersmart.info.
The Green Acres Garden Podcast is the podcast dedicated to helping gardeners hone their growing skills while we celebrate our love of plants. So whether you're new to growing or a seasoned gardener, you're sure to learn something new. Join the fun as we have conversations with world-class growers, passionate green thumbs, and professional garden experts from Green Acres Nursery and Supply. Listen every week. We'll answer questions you didn't know you had. And away we grow. If you're looking for a little flower power, then you've come to the right place, because this is the Green Acres Garden Podcast. I'm your happy host, Kevin Jordan, the Dudley Dude, back in studio for another great episode. Actually, we're going to go on a little garden adventure off to a beautiful oasis here in Sacramento, California. Austin and I and the podcast crew, we made it out to the Effie Yeaw Nature Center, where we got to meet up with a brand new garden friend, Carrie, out there. Hey there, Carrie. Great interview. Learned so much. Actually, this place is near and dear to my heart. I've actually got to spend a lot of time there through my college years, doing some projects out there and whatnot. It's beautiful. It's serene. It's a riparian environment, Austin.
What is riparian?
Yes. It's the area around a river.
Oh,
so,
that's a great word. Wow.
See, right? Yeah, I sound smart for a second there. But yeah, it's beautiful.
I like that.
You're going to see like an oak woodland and a little grassland. Sometimes you'll see some wet areas, depending upon the time of year. And what's really cool is when we were out there filming, it was so beautiful, but I couldn't help but think, if we go back in a few weeks, it's going to look totally different than it does right now. Because once we get those first few rains, everything that's gold now will go green. We go back in the spring, those greens will turn to color, and we'll see all the flowers. So it's kind of cool. So as beautiful as it is now, it's one of those places where you kind of want to visit it throughout the year. So totally gorgeous, a great interview with Carrie, and we're going to talk all about that. So for me, I love natives. When you go there, you get to see a lot of native plants. And we learned a ton. What'd you think, Austin?
Oh, I had a great time. I've been there a couple times before to hike the trails, but it's been years. So I was due, and it was great to have a friend there, Carrie, guide us around and show us everything. Kind of even showed us stuff after the nature center had sort of closed a little bit. So it felt, like VIP special status.
Behind the scenes.
But yeah, there's so many great animals there. I mean, we were surrounded by turkeys the whole time.
During the interview, squirrels and turkeys kept catching my eye. I couldn't keep my attention. It was hard.
Interesting world of animals and wild native plants. Yeah, so much to see. So I highly encourage everyone to check it out, and we'll learn more about that in our interview. But first, I do want to just check in with you, Kevin, about any tasks in our garden that we should be thinking about this week. We've been talking a lot about fall gardening.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything we've missed? Is there anything you think we should be thinking about?
There's so much you can and maybe should be doing right now, and it really depends on your landscape and what you got going on. So for a lot of people, it might be turning over their summer garden and getting that fall vegetable garden going. It could be converting a landscape and completely installing some new plants. This is actually a great time if you're going to overhaul your landscape and put in, even whether it's just a few plants or completely start from scratch. This is actually a great time of the year. Soil's still warm. The air temperature is pretty cool, pretty forgiving on the plants, so it's not as stressful as, say, planting a few months ago when it was 105. So it's actually a fantastic time to plant. Fall is for planting. We've said that 1,000 times on the show, but it's true, and it's for all those reasons. So, but it's also a really good time this month to do some lawn care. We haven't talked about it lately, but it's something that maybe we could spend a little time on. If you don't mind, can I talk a little bit?
So what's your lawn care tips?
There's so much you can do to kind of spruce up your lawn. I have a little patch myself. Some people, they're clutching to their little lawns as well. And if you're going to have an area of some turf grass, it's important that you take good care of it. Overseeding. I might have to do this in a few spots on my own lawn where it's just looking a little bare, a little naked. So if you get your hands on a good seed mix, that does well for your area. For me, I have to use a dense shade mix because my back area is so shady that it's just enough sunlight for grass to do well. But overseeding, it's a perfect time to do that. It's like I said, it's just warm enough. Temperatures are in that little Goldilocks zone. So get them seeds on there. Dethatching, we brought this up in the past, but all the thatch as your leaves grow and that grass lives and dies, it leaves behind some of those old leaves, and they just start to stack up and pile up, and it kind of can create a kind of a thick mat or mass of matted up leaves. And so it can kind of hinder nutrients flow, airflow, water moving through the soil and all that. So dethatching is kind of lightly raking that all. You can use a rake, you can get a dethatcher, but you want to remove all that old growth to kind of provide air and sunlight to penetrate down into the soil and kind of help out and let that grass kind of rejuvenate itself. So dethatching, it's a great time of year to do that. Of course, you wouldn't think it because it's getting cooler, but fertilizing. Great. Your lawn is really going to need some nutrition to kind of get itself through the cooler months. So feeding it now and through the winter can actually help do that and increase your success for coming into a nice spring and summer, having an abundance of health and vitality in that lawn and that turf. Aerating, of course, especially for those of you out there who have a very mature lawn. Over time, the roots, the grass, just compaction, everything, it just gets really bound up and tight, right? You ever like worked out, Austin, and kind of woke up the next day and you're like, I'm a little tight.
I actually like that feeling.
I do too. Isn't that odd?
But it's not good for the lawn, right? And
no.
This is where you punch the holes in it, right?
Yes. I used to think it was like, I'm like, who came out and pooped everywhere? Like whose terrier did this at our school? I remember being like in fourth grade, being like, what the? Like, I don't want to play flag football on this. But it was just plugs, and they go through and boop, boop, boop. You know, they just pull plugs out. You can rent them, you can buy them, little cheap ones that aren't even powered, and basically you're pulling out just little columns, little cylinders of soil to reduce all that compaction and that tension to allow just more space for air and for the roots to kind of penetrate and move around. And it's kind of cool. You do that, you rake it up, you can compost that material and you reuse it as well. But aerating the soil can be, for your lawn, a great time right now.
And then the lawn goes,
Oh, it's like, it was painful, but a good kind of painful.
Yeah.
And then top dress with compost. You wouldn't think this, but compost, we talk about it. I think we've mentioned it once or twice, how good compost is for growing plants. Yep. The same benefits that it has for, our veggie gardens, our shrubs and our flower beds.
On the lawn.
Compost
on the lawn.
Black, rich, beautiful, earthy compost. And you'll see people you can get a pile of it. You can open the bag up. But then you get your shovel and kind of just do like a nice sideways horizontal swing. Make sure no one's standing near you, and just let it fly out and cascade. And you want to distribute it kind of evenly around your grass. And then you can rake it in. You can tease it in a little bit, water it in even, because you don't want to leave massive piles. But you do want to spread it out, and it will kind of penetrate and seep down in. It might cover the leaves a little bit, but don't be afraid. Adding a bit of compost to your lawn, I'm telling you, it'll help build up the organic matter in that soil.
I bet.
Which really helps it do so many different things. For one thing, it's going to kind of rejuvenate the nutrition and all that and add back to that organic matter. But what that does, it creates a much more efficient sponge. So that way when it's raining, that lawn can suck up that water. When we do irrigate, it can hold that water and then release it to the plant as it needs it. So having that extra organic matter, and if you do this once or twice a year, you're really going to, over time, you're going to build up, your soil in your lawn to where it'll just be rich, dark green, just beautiful, vital, healthy grass. So I'm telling you, top dress with compost. And if you notice that you have areas where there's just maybe because things are just eroding differently, or you got some wild kids that are just, like me, they're just ripping. I looked over the other day, my son's like, "Here, Dad," and he just ripped up so much lawn and just gave it to me like it was a gift. I'm like, "Oh, thanks, boy." Thanks, little tear in my eye. Like, man, don't do that anymore. Dad, you're being too nice for Daddy. But so if you have like divots, whatever, uneven areas.
Fill it in with the
compost.
Fill it in.
So you can use compost. Okay. You could get some topsoil as well. Might be even better. And using a rake, you can. There's tools designed just for this. But if you don't want to go out and do all that, just use your hands. Use a rake. Kind of treat it as needed. I've seen people do it. Use even just like a square, flat piece of 2x4 to kind of scrape it off and level an area so that way it's nice and even. And I'm telling you, having a lawn that doesn't have a lot of lumps and bumps and humps where your ankles are rolling over, it can be really nice when it's nice and smooth and kind of even and true. So those are all little things you can do with your lawn. And for me, I'm raking like crazy because I have a lot of oak trees in my backyard and a few sequoias.
Leaves.
So they're just kind of starting. The temperatures are dropping, things are getting cooler. Fall, true to its name, the leaves are falling. And if I leave it on the lawn, I notice it kind of, as the leaves decay, they'll kind of burn a little hole in my lawn and leave behind little dead
Because
spots.
they're stopping the sunlight?
They're just, exactly. They're matting it out, and they're just...
I got to ask you, though, because we've also mentioned in the past that it's okay to leave the leaves, but I guess that's not on a lawn, but you can leave them elsewhere, so...
True and true.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
You're totally right, Austin. You got a good memory, bud. You do want to leave the leaves, but not typically on your lawn. It'll smother out if you have a plant that's desirable and the leaves are piling up all over it. Probably not going to be a great thing. However, right now it's a great time to actually utilize your leaves. The leaves I'm taking off my lawn, I'm putting around my other plants and using it like a mulch, or I'm putting it in my compost pile to turn back into soil. So you can leave the leaves in a lot of our areas. There's so many benefits. Suppresses the weeds, builds up the soil, but there's a lot of organisms that can really benefit from us just not getting hyper worried about having the most pristine landscape ever during our fall and winter months. Leave the leaves if you can in some of those areas, and you'll see a lot of good benefit, not just to your plants, but to the natural environment around you.
Okay.
There's a lot of organisms that rely on it.
Interesting. Yeah, and I remember a couple of weeks ago, Michelle Queck at Twin Lakes Food Bank was asking for donations of leaves because they use that like exclusively as their mulch along with the straw, I think.
Yeah, it's great for in the vegetable bed. Sometimes we'll do it around our apple trees and our fruit trees. We'll use it as a top mulch. We won't pile it up against the trunk, but around the area that kind of that rain. What is it?
Yeah, because you can get water stuck on the trunk, and you don't want that to collect there, right?
Yeah. So if you have leaves piled up against your house or wood structures or piled up against a tree's trunk, that's not good. Pull it off a few inches. Have it around the root zone area, and you're going to be off and running. So you can definitely utilize in our vegetable beds. Totally useful. So don't just leave the leaves, use the leaves.
Use the leaves.
Yeah, they are just like manna from heaven falling down. Utilize it.
Cool. All right. Man, I swear, I'm picking up leaves all the time now. But let's put them to use.
No shortage of leaves down here in Midtown, buddy. Every tree, I swear, is over 50 feet tall.
I know. I think I fill up my yard waste bin every week with them. But maybe I should bag them up and do something different. But
you should take them down.
I know.
To your spot.
Bank.
No.
Oh, to
you
my
should
garden.
take them down to your garden plot, bud, and just start laying them out. Especially right now, the rains are about to come. Just bag them up, take them down, and just thick layer, and be like let the rains have at it.
I never thought of that till now,
dude. I'm telling you.
Oh, okay. I'm doing that.
I'll help you too.
Okay.
We'll load my truck up.
Thanks, man. All right. So we had an interview this week with Carrie at the Effie Yeaw Nature Center. This is such a beautiful place to visit. If you're in the area, I highly recommend you go. But let's go ahead and jump into that interview now. Let's check it out.
So I'm here at the beautiful Effie Yeaw Nature Center in Sacramento, California, meeting up with a new garden friend, Carrie. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Actually, I love being here. I've got to be honest. I've been here many times before. I love this place. I've gone on many walks through the nature trails and all that, and I absolutely love it. So I'm already hooked. But let's actually just kind of start. What is it that you guys do here, and why should we love it?
So the easiest, quickest thing I would say about why you should love it is that it's absolutely gorgeous here. It's so beautiful. And I'm going to give you longer answers, but that's the short answer that, I think most immediately speaks to people. So we at Effie Yeaw Nature Center, we have a building that has a small museum and a gift shop, and then we have 100 acres of woodland that is protected as a nature study area. And we have trails through this woodland, and you can come and explore it at your own pace in your own time. But we also do all kinds of different programs for everybody from adults to babies. And our naturalists work very hard with school districts to do tons and tons and tons of field trips. They're either going out to schools or bringing schools in all the time. So we like to say that we bring people to nature and nature to people. One of our new mottos, right, is that we're here to help people discover, explore, and engage. So our first mission is to protect this beautiful area and the plants and animals in the ecosystem. But a big part of that is to give people the opportunity to experience it so that they have the chance to fall in love with it and to take that love for this area into other areas. we feel really passionately that people love what they see, what they get a chance to interact with and experience. So we love for people to come out here and see for themselves how beautiful it is.
It certainly is. And I think it's a great little location because when you think about it, I mean, you don't have to travel super far to come here if you live in the area. I mean, it's really in our own backyard, and it kind of differs from maybe like a national park where you have to travel several hours or maybe more to get there. This is right in our own backyard.
We're just tucked in the heart of Carmichael. We're just sort of tucked back there, right in the middle of suburbia, right in the middle of the city. And it's a little hidden gem. So,
what kind of benefit do you think people get when they come to a nature center or a place like this?
There's a lot of evidence that when people spend time in a natural setting, a wild setting, right, it helps reduce stress, it helps mental health. People are walking around on the trails, they end up exercising whether they think they're gonna or not. So it improves physical fitness. So there's some really practical, basic reasons why being at Effie Yeaw Nature Center or any nature center is beneficial. It's also beneficial because nature isn't this thing that exists apart from everything else. Everything is nature. We're part of nature, and we depend on it to survive. So even if you're not, I will literally hug a tree. But you could be someone who's not really into trees, but you still have to breathe. You still need clean water. You still need clean air. We all do. That's an inescapable fact of life. So when you come to a nature center, you have the opportunity to really learn how the ecosystem in your area works. And one thing I like about nature centers is that they tend to be really locally focused. So at Effie Yeaw, we can talk to you a lot about this area of Northern California, what the ecosystem is like where we are, what the history is like of the place that we are right now. And I think that's really powerful.
You had some educational displays in there of certain insects and pollinators. Are there any insects and pollinators that we should be aware of, things that we could be maybe hopefully luring into our own landscapes?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So one of the plants we have a lot of here is milkweed. I believe the variety is showy milkweed that we have a lot of. And our habitat restoration team has been working very hard at trying to reduce the presence of invasive plants in the nature study area, which is a task that never ends. If you want a volunteer job that will keep you healthy and let you meet really cool people and spend time outside, let us know because we always need more people doing that. And the reason that they're working so hard on milkweed specifically is to attract monarch butterflies. We would love to bring monarch butterflies into here, and we're starting to see some progress. We're starting to see little eggs and caterpillars. We have many different species of bees here, not scary bees. They're just little pollinator bees, and we have many different varieties and many different varieties of butterflies also. As well as, anytime that you are in a woodland area, there's any number of insects that you might never see. But the pollinators are really fun and very, very important. And a great thing about pollinators is that even if all you have to garden with is a container, you can grow a pollinator-friendly native plant in a container, in a pot, on your apartment balcony. And it will look pretty, and it will smell nice, and hopefully it will help attract pollinators, which increases the health of the biodiversity of our region.
Absolutely. Hear, hear. Yeah, plant some native plants. Bring in those native bugs and insects. I love it. Have you actually witnessed for yourself some of the wildlife flourishing in this area with just having this little oasis, the 100 acres oasis?
Oh my gosh.
Have you seen it?
That is the best thing about working here, you guys. It's amazing. So I don't do a lot of hiking around here. I pretty much go from the parking lot to the building and back, and I work inside. And even with that very limited, comparatively, time outside, compared to like our docents who are out, for hours and hours every day. Every day, we have wild turkeys walking around right now. We have deer who come right up in the nature study area. We have a huge variety of birds. This is a great place to bird watch. We have a red-shouldered hawk who he and his mate usually take up residence in the nature study area and will just fly around. So tons of birds. And we also have coyotes. And I was thrilled the first time I saw a coyote in the daytime. I get why maybe you don't want a coyote, on your back porch, but the nature study area is a great habitat for them.
How can our listeners support a place like this from either from visiting, from showing up, volunteering, or maybe just in their own landscapes? What can they do to support, the wildlife in nature centers like this?
So you kind of brought up two different kinds of support. One is supporting the nature center itself, the nature study area itself, and one is sort of supporting a broader kind of biodiversity by planting native in your own yard. And I could talk a little bit more about that. In terms of supporting Effie Yeaw Nature Center, we are a very small private nonprofit, and we rely almost exclusively on donations. So you can go to our website, which is effieyeawnature.org, and you can donate through our website. You can become a member. Members get all kinds of great benefits, including free parking. Our museum is free of charge, but there is a fee to enter the park and park, and that is waived for you if you are a member. So become a member. You can do that online or come in and do it. You can also volunteer at Effie Yeaw. And when I talked to the habitat restoration team and landscaping team people ahead of time, they were quite ardent that they wanted to make sure your listeners know that we need volunteers and we need native plant donations. We have an Amazon wish list. And I'm also informed, I'll just throw this out here, that we are in need of a special kind of sprinkler, and that is on our website. A hunter irrigation timer, tools, plants, anything like that. Gift cards are great. Those are all things that we can really use. And we always need volunteers. And this is a great place to work.
Well, I'm curious, as on the other side of that question, how can people in their own communities, no matter where they're at, even if they're not near Effie Yeaw, how can they support just the wildlife in their area from their own backyard?
So a big thing that you can do is plant native plants. And you can do it in a pot, in a container, or you can have a big property and do it. It doesn't matter. There's something for every size of things. Now, I am not a gardening expert, but I will tell you that the few plants that have really thrived in my yard under what I can only describe as my benign neglect are native plants. Because native plants live here anyway. So once they get established, and it takes sometimes a couple years to really get them established, but once they're solid, established and solid, they will thrive with very little water, with no pesticide use or minimal pesticide use. I mean, the whole point of them partly is that you want to have certain insects around, beneficial insects.
Yeah.
And they are built in with defenses against pests. And they're already built to survive this area. And if you live someplace that isn't California, then the same principle applies. You're just going to be using different plants, right? Wherever you are, you can plant plants that are native to that area, and it'll save you time, it'll save you water, it'll save you money. And then from an ecological standpoint, it helps wildlife because these are the plants that attract pollinators, attract birds. If you're a bird watcher and you are growing plants that are native in your garden, you're going to have more birds because that's what they eat. All that kind of good stuff that we love to see happen. And the more people do it, the better, because we don't want to just have like a little island over here and an island really far away. We want them to be close enough that pollinators can get from one native plant to another native plant to another native plant in different yards, in different gardens, and they're kind of connected together. That's what really creates a really beautiful ecological system.
Well, that's a great way to think about it. It actually made me think about just Effie Yeaw Nature Center itself is an island or an oasis for larger wilderness areas. This is a smaller pocket, and it's like a little cradle of life, just kind of holding it there. And then hopefully in our own little backyards or our patios or our front porch, we can create little micro islands of our own.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And we are really lucky in the Sacramento, Carmichael, greater Sacramento area, and really in, I think, all of California. There are a ton of really wonderful organizations here that support this kind of work and that we work with, and they're doing their own projects. So like California Native Plant Society, Hedgerow Farms, you guys, Save the American River Association, more than I could ever list, who are all doing really, really great work to keep our river clean and our ecological system thriving. And it's really exciting. You know, I think a lot of times people get kind of depressed when they think about environmental challenges. They can seem really overwhelming. But when you spend every day, like I get to do, talking to different people who are doing this kind of work and all in their own different ways, and see how all these projects intersect and how important they are, and how they also intersect with, say, a person who just picks up a little bit of trash on Thursdays or something, right? Or somebody who's planting native plants in their yard. It's so inspiring and it's so exciting, and it makes you feel optimistic and enthusiastic. And you know, too, if you go online and you just Google, right? Google native plants in my area, right? You'll find tons of different resources that are specific to your area. But one thing that's really exciting and really cool is that they will often list like how many species a California live oak supports. I don't know that
hundreds
number
or something, yeah.
I don't know that number off the top of my head, but it's a lot. And how many species a California poppy supports. It's more than you would think, even though that's a really small plant. So there's just so much different scope, and I love that it also sort of exists at this sort of intersection between, you know, it's not necessarily that you should plant native plants out of the goodness of your heart. You can plant native plants because it serves you well. It's practical. It's cheaper. It's easier. So, and if you are a big nature lover, then you get an extra bonus. But I really love being at kind of that intersection between sort of the poetic and the practical. And that's, I think, is where native plants really reside when it comes to gardening.
Yeah, you know, you brought up the different, it's really cool to see the relationships between the animals and the plants. And so certain plants, you said they bring in certain pollinators, or it's the host plant. The milkweed is the host plant for, which is toxic to everybody else and all of us. But for some reason, those little caterpillars love it. But it made me think of, what is that, the California pipevine? The pipevine's the swallowtail?
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that? Do you have any?
It's such an exciting plant to have here because it's home to the swallowtail butterfly. And how fascinating is it that you get these creatures that are dependent on a single plant, right? It's the same with the monarchs. They need that showy milkweed. And the swallowtails, which are gorgeous, and we have tons of them here at Effie Yeaw at the right time of year, and they're stunning. And they need that pipevine. And that's another one that you can grow at home. And it's a nice
climber, yeah,
plant.
you can trail it. Yeah, they're pretty cool. Well, Carrie, I want to thank you so much. This has been super enlightening. Is there anything else that you want to share with us before we let you go?
Well, I want to thank all the organizations that have worked with us in various ways. I can't possibly thank them all by name. We have a lot of donors and sponsors and supporters that we could not exist without, and we couldn't exist without our amazing volunteer team, particularly as it pertains to our landscape maintenance. We have a pollinator garden here we're in this little picnic area right now outside of the museum, and there's a pollinator garden, there's a playscape, there's some kind of little display plots of specific plants with little signs. That is all done by volunteers. They are amazing. So please come by, and if you like it here, volunteer, donate through our website, and come to one of our events. We are launching a new Nerdy Night series, which for ages 21 plus. We have a Under the Oak Book Club that meets on the first Sunday of every month, and that is also for adults. On the other end of the spectrum, we've got the Mighty Acorn program, which is for preschoolers, and that's on the, I remember it, second Tuesday of every month. And then not to mention all our different events that we put on, and field trips and things. So it's a really quiet, serene place, but it's also a place where something is always happening, and we're really trying to design our programming so that there's something for everybody. There's a real centeredness to this place that I think really speaks to the best of this neighborhood and this city and the people who live in it, who want to make it better and want to really enjoy everything it has to offer. And that's really special.
Carrie, thank you so much. I loved it. I learned a bunch, and I'm fired up. And it could not have happened in a more beautiful setting. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's such a pleasure to talk to you guys, and I hope we see some of your listeners out here.
I'm sure you will.
And I wish the best of luck with their native gardening endeavors.
All right, we are back. Big thank you to Carrie. Thank you so much for being our host at the Effie Yeaw Nature Center. I loved it. That's all the time we have for this week. Kevin, take us out.
Another fun episode, a great week. I had so much fun. Man, I love these field trips, Austin. It's fun field tripping with you, buddy.
Oh,
yeah. Thanks again to Carrie, and thank you to all of our listeners. Man, this is the best job ever, Austin. I shouldn't say it. Don't let producer Greg know. I don't want them knowing how much I love it. It's so much fun. And I cannot wait for what this next season brings. So let's get out there, have a ball, have an amazing week, garden friends, and please come back next week for more garden adventures. Until next time, garden friends, happy gardening to you all, and please never stop growing.